The college application process is becoming increasingly competitive. From 2003 to 2018, the acceptance rates at many top schools fell by a full 50%, according to Entrepreneur.com. It's becoming more and more essential to stand out to gain admission to these selective schools. So if you're a high schooler looking for ways to improve your admissions profile, you're in the right place. Getting a high school internship can help you stand out, as landing one takes initiative and completing one helps you to develop your professional interests and your skills far beyond those of a typical high schooler who hasn't had an internship. So in this video, we're going to go over the steps to take for a successful high school internship search. Before we begin, I just want to remind you to subscribe to the College Find YouTube channel for more college admissions videos and to give us a like on this video if you find it particularly helpful in your internship search. So let's dive in. Before you begin your internship search, there are 3 steps you ought to take. Those 3 steps are: number 1, reflect on your career interests, the things you might want to do when you grow up. Number 2, consider the logistics of a potential opportunity. And number 3, prepare your resume to submit applications. So number 1, reflect on your career interests. Internships are a great way for you to explore a potential field or a potential career path. You should ask yourself where your interests lie and what kind of job you can see yourself doing in the future. Those interests can help you narrow down your internship search. You want to be sure that you're pursuing something that is genuinely meaningful to you. Don't just look for any internship because you think it'll look good on your resume. In fact, taking an internship that doesn't make sense in the context of your overall profile won't look good at all. It will actually negatively affect your application. For example, if you have a strong STEM background and lots of STEM extracurriculars, it might confuse admissions officers if you get an internship at a historical society. Internships are a chance to learn something new, but usually you want to do them within one of your existing fields of interest. If you're unsure of your professional interests at this point, that's totally fine. Many college students and even college graduates are still unsure what they want to be when they grow up. While you might not be able to narrow down your interest to a really specific field or job, try to at least reflect on a few broader fields or industries that might be interesting to you, like business, hospitality, museums, any of those things that can at least give you some direction as you begin your internship search. Number 2 is to consider the logistics. So beyond your potential field or industry, you also want to think about the logistical details of taking on an internship. For example, what kind of work environment do you want to explore? Do you want to work at a big company, at a nonprofit, within a government office, at a fast-paced startup? Another question that you should ask is, do you need to stay close to your school or home for transportation purposes? Can you accept an unpaid internship, or do you really need to be compensated to save up for college or support your family? If you want to find an internship during the school year, you should also consider how many hours per week you can realistically commit to while you're still, of course, juggling your schoolwork and your extracurriculars. So make sure to think about all of those questions up front so that you aren't faced with some awkward situations later if you are confronted with an offer that you need to decline. Tip number 3 is to prepare your resume before your search. So once you've outlined some criteria for your internship, you should prepare that document that'll help you apply. Your resume is basically a 1-page summary of your relevant education, experiences, and skills. You're going to need to send one to employers for any internship or job search. You should tailor your resume for each position that you apply to, but it is helpful to start with a document that has all of the general stuff you want to mention for a position in the field of your choice. As a high schooler, you probably don't have a ton of work experience yet, and you might not have any at all, which is totally okay. You can still list a bunch of helpful information on your resume, such as your high school GPA, the extracurriculars you're involved with, any awards you've won, and your particular skills or interests. If you want to learn more about crafting your resume, we've written a blog post on it. It's called 5 Things to Put on Your High School Resume, and that post is linked below this video. So let's talk about where to look for high school internships. So now that you've narrowed down your fields of interest and you've prepared your resume, you're ready to actually dive in and start the internship search. High school internships are not super common, so you need to be prepared for that. You'll do a lot of digging and you might hear a lot of no's before you hear a yes. But there are 3 tips we recommend to help you actually secure an internship. Number 1 is to leverage your network. Number 2 is to reach out to local businesses and organizations in your area. And number 3 is to search online. So let's go through each of those. Number 1 is to leverage your network. So according to sites like Forbes and NPR, the vast majority of jobs, as many as 85%, are found through networking. That's often because many positions are never actually published online. They get filled directly through referrals from current employees. So while you may not have actually done professional networking yet, you do have a network already. Your school counselor, for example, may have a compilation of local high school internships, which could be a great place to start. You can also, of course, ask your family, your teachers, coaches, any other adult mentors if they know anyone related to your field of interest and can make an introduction for you. Those introductions can be a big help, even if that introduction doesn't actually lead to a hiring decision. If that person doesn't actually hire you, they probably know someone in their company or another company who may be looking for help. If it turns out a certain company doesn't offer any high school internships, The connection may still be able to let you shadow someone in that company, which still gives you a valuable glance into the industry. Tip number 2 is to reach out to local businesses and organizations. So if there's a specific business or organization that you feel matches your interests and your desired work environment really perfectly, you can of course try reaching out to them directly. You can visit the business in person and ask to speak to a manager, or you can craft a brief introductory email that explains your background, what you have to offer, and what you want to learn in an internship. Be sure to attach that resume that we prepared earlier. This method tends to work better for smaller businesses and organizations in your area, as they're usually a bit easier to reach. If you can establish a connection with the owner or manager of the company, they may even be willing to create an internship for you that they didn't know they needed in the first place. Don't be discouraged if you don't receive a reply to your outreach at first. You can try following up a week later to remind them, and of course just move on if you still don't get a response. The reality of the job search is that many inquiries are never responded to, and you just have to keep trying before you get to yes. Tip number 3 is to search online. Another resource that exists is an online database of jobs. You should really try this method only after exhausting the other 2 options. We mentioned that many people never get a response to job inquiries, but it's especially true for actual job applications. Also, as we mentioned earlier, the vast majority of positions are filled through networking, and many open positions are never actually offered to the public. That being said, it doesn't hurt to see what might be available, and looking online can help you to inform your search if you're still kind of unsure which fields you want to pursue. Seeing the open high school internships can give you some ideas. Some places that you can look are internships.com, Glassdoor, Indeed, and LinkedIn. All of those platforms have dedicated pages for high school internships, or places where you can actually search specifically for a job if you are a high schooler. So now let's move on to a third phase, which is before you accept an internship. So once you've completed all the steps we've talked through, you hopefully have received an internship offer. Before you accept, you want to make sure to clarify the following things: what your duties will be. So internships are only valuable if you're doing work that exposes you to a potential career, not simply getting coffee or doing really menial office labor. You should make your expectations really clear, particularly if you're hoping to learn or refine a specific skill, such as coding. Another thing that you want to consider is how often you'll work and for how long. So this is another place where expectations on both sides really need to align. You're going to need to balance your internship hours with your schoolwork and your activities, particularly if your internship is during the school year. Another thing you want to consider is how you'll be compensated. So many internships are unpaid, particularly those in high school. If working an unpaid internship is simply not feasible for you financially, you should make that really clear from the beginning, and of course don't accept an offer that is unpaid. Regardless of whether your internship is paid, be sure to check whether you can get school credit for it, because that could be another helpful benefit. So we hope that you found this video helpful. If you have any questions related to high school internships or to the college admissions process in general, be sure to leave them in the comments of this video. If you want more information on finding internships as a high schooler, we'll link a couple more helpful blog posts below. One will be the one that we mentioned in the video about what to put on your resume, and the other blog post will be a compilation of 14 awesome internship programs for high schoolers, so you might want to check that out to get a head start. Overall, we wish you the best of luck in your internship search, and see you back here for another video on the college admissions process.